Thank you very much. Welcome everybody once again. You've already seen me. I'm the editor of this book, and the authors and I, we are delighted to see it out. Finally, it's the end of a long journey, a journey that leads me to some acknowledgement at first. So I want to thank Dr. Weil, representing here the Health Development Holdings company who made this project possible, and I hope this will just be the beginning of a long partnership that will see greater awareness of this topic. I want to share thanks also with, share my thanks and the author's thanks to the Foundation for Science, Technology and Civilization and the 1001 Invention teams who have produced this wonderful, wonderful book, which I've just seen for the first time in the flesh, or should I say in paper, this morning, and I'm really blown away by the wonderful attention to detail, the great layout, the wonderful design that they have produced. So thanks for making that happen, and thanks for all the hard work. I mean, obviously, I personally would also like to thank my authors who couldn't be here with us today because they come from so many different countries, and the vast majority of whom are not UK based. So to them I offer my thanks in absentia, so to speak, also for bearing with me as an editor who sometimes wielded a very sharp pen and cut their prose down in ways that they don't always like, but I hope that the overall result and its uniformity pays tribute to their own genius, and I hope that you will see this through this editorial process. Now, the French historian of philosophy and historian of thought, Alain de Libéral, wrote profusely about the concept of lost heritage, héritage oublié, as he called it. And he, in particular, linked the lost heritage in philosophy to certain tendencies, modern tendencies, in the society in which he lives in France in the 90s, when he developed this concept, tendencies of racism, for instance, tendencies of the exclusion of the other. And what did he mean by this? He basically saw that when people talk about philosophy, they jump from the Greeks to the Renaissance. They skip, as Dr. Weil has said, this period of, I don't know, 1,500, 1,000 years without much thought of what happened in between. Those were the Dark Ages. Those were the period of obscurantism, of scholasticism, where not much happened. Now, this forgotten heritage, this héritage oublié, also exists in medicine, as I have argued. It exists in our public discourse today, and that is in a way scandalous. And the same tendencies, I mean, it is a bias, of course. Sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's unconscious, but it is not an innocent bias that excludes this wonderful period of history from public discourse. I just give you today, I mean, one example. The BBC a few years back made a documentary or a radio program in 30 episodes about the making of modern medicine. And it is a history that began with Hippocrates, the great physician of antiquity, lived roughly in the 5th century BC, known to all of you through the Hippocratic Oath. They also talked about Galen, but then they jumped straight to the Renaissance with Vesalius and others. So even the BBC, even nowadays, can basically ignore this huge sway of history. And that, again, should not really happen. Another area where we can see this is the academic study of medieval Islamic medicine. By medieval Islamic medicine, I mean medicine as practiced in the lens of Islam during the medieval period. Where are the chairs of medieval Islamic medicine in the UK? Where are the chairs of medieval Islamic medicine in the US, in the great universities Harvard, the alma mater of Dr. Weil, or elsewhere. Now, Harvard actually does have a historian of medicine, Ahmed Aragab, who contributed a chapter. But generally speaking, we do not find many people who engage on a professional level, as professional historians, as academics, with this tradition. There are, of course, some exceptions. Otherwise, I would not have had any authors. But by comparison to what happens in other fields, like medieval Latin medicine, for instance, it is really a dearth of people who engage with this, and an overabundance of sources that await study. So when I say lost heritage, héritage oublié, a forgotten heritage, that heritage still is forgotten to a certain extent. All of us in this room are aware of it, but we really need to take the message to a wider public. And that then is the aim of this book. Make sure that we remember our forgotten heritage and bring the best contemporary scholarship to a wider audience. Now, in this, I was able to gain authors who came, as I said, already from the US, Harvard, NYU, from France, the CNRS, but also some authors from parts of the Arab world which are now basically under siege or destroyed, like Aleppo. We have one author, Dr. Mahmoud Misri, from the Institute of the History of Arabic Sciences. So we have a variety of authors who often represent the very top of their discipline, who have contributed to this book. And they have written, and sometimes they were somewhat beaten into writing, for a wider audience in a very accessible language. And I hope that you will see this. So basically what happens in this book is that we bring this professional approach of professional historians to the wider audience, whilst also having names such as those of Dr. Mahmoud al-Masri and Dr. Rabia, writing as practicing physicians and giving us their perspective. So in that sense, I'm very glad that the book can do that. Now, this book, of course, marks an ending. The book is finished, it's printed, and this is part of the journey that we've gone together, and we're celebrating today this achievement. But I hope, as I've said in the beginning, that it will also be a beginning. You know, you can read the book now, but hopefully many more people will be able to read either the book in its entirety or see exhibitions, traveling performance-based events, will be able to experience all that, all the things that 1001 Invention has done so incredibly successfully with this earlier book. And I hope that these ideas, this forgotten heritage, will be brought to a much wider audience, and so that a much larger audience is exposed to this absolutely fascinating story. So I hope then that we can all join forces and make this ending a beginning. And in this, I think we can all agree. So thank you very much, and I hope that you'll enjoy reading the book, and I'll hope that you all will help us to make this not just a book, but basically an ongoing event that continues and reaches ever-growing audiences. Thank you.